Hello. Good morning to most of you. Good afternoon if there is anyone watching in the UK. It's currently 2 p.m. UK time, which is where I am from, which means I'm live here on the Dixie Belle YouTube channel. I am a Dixie Belle brand ambassador and I am also the owner of Faff Designs, which I paint furniture. I do also have my own YouTube channel if you want to go over and subscribe. I'd love that very much. But I'm live here on the Dixie Belle YouTube channel every Tuesday doing something to do with furniture painting, upcycling, that kind of thing. So I normally show you something that I'm doing at that moment, at this moment in time, at that specific moment in time. And what I'm doing at this specific moment in time today is I'm finishing off a little bookcase. This has been something I started way too long ago. I mean, it's a very simple piece. There's probably a couple of hours worth of work in it, but as usual, I have dragged my heels with it. And it's been sitting in my workshop wanting to be finished for longer than I care to remember, actually. So I'm going to get it finished up and staged. And I did add a transfer to the drawer front last night, which is this one, which is something I think it's been missing, because plain pieces, absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with them at all. They're the pieces that I always sell the quickest, but I do like to put a little something on, and I felt like this needed something, you know, like I couldn't think what it was, and I kept looking at it, and I think that's what the delay was. So I went for a transfer just on the drawer front. I like how the kind of purpley tones contrast against the green, but we're not working on that today because I've just put a water-based top coat on that to seal the transfer in, so I've got to let that sit and dry. But what I'm going to do with the rest of the piece is now kind of finish it off. So what I use quite a lot of the times on my pieces to finish them off is Best Dang Wax. Now, I get loads of questions when I use Best Dang Wax. Is it as durable as a top coat? Short and quick answer, no. Because you apply a water-based top coat and you never have to do it again. It locks your piece in. It gives you the sheen level that you desire, whether you're using satin, matte, gloss, whatever, and it's done. Couple of thin coats and it's done. Wax is slightly different, because if your piece is getting a lot of wear and tear, so for example, if you put this on a dining table, which I wouldn't recommend, but you could if you wanted to, if you put a top coat on, say for example gator hide, that has got properties in it that are water resistant and heat resistant. If you put wax on it, eventually you'd have to re-wax it because the wax will wear away. So no, it's not as durable. But is it suitable for furniture? 100%, because this is actually the most traditional way of finishing a piece that has been painted in chalk mineral paint. Now, Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint, which is what I've painted this in, doesn't actually require a top coat because it is very durable. However, most people do apply a top coat on the top of it because it has like a kind of a very matte, kind of chalky finish. And if you obviously are going to be cleaning your piece and dusting it, it just helps if you've got a top coat on it. Also, a lot of people don't like that kind of flat matte look. I personally like a little bit of a sheen, and my favourite is wax. I just like how it looks. I like how it applies. Is it suitable for every piece of furniture? No. Is it suitable for decorative pieces that are going to be used occasionally? Yes. So a lot of people don't use wax because they think it's not going to be durable. It absolutely is. And I can vouch for that personally, because I like waxed pieces so much. In my home, I have lived with pieces of furniture that I have painted in Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint, waxed them as the kind of final top coat, and I have 4 dogs, 2 kids. We're very, very heavy-handed with stuff. I would go as far to say my children are slightly feral, and they have held up absolutely fine. I had a piece upstairs, and it was a gorgeous little piece, but I had a kind of a move around. It was actually painted in collard greens, and it was waxed, and I had all my makeup on the top of it. Now, makeup got spilt on it. It does, like a little bit of foundation here and there. It wiped up absolutely fine. In fact, it got to the point where I needed to move some pieces around upstairs, and I sold that piece, and it didn't need anything doing to it other than a wipe down. I did put another coat of wax on the top, but it was absolutely fine. So my point is, wax is definitely okay for some projects, not for all. So you need to know what the purpose of your project is going to be. So if you, like I say, if you're refinishing a dining table, maybe not the best. You're all being very quiet, unless there's something not quite right with the YouTube, because I'm vertical. I spoke to Dixie Belle. We agreed to do it this way. Hello, Sam, feral children. Yes, hello from Germany. Hi. So yeah, the comments are working, which is always good. So I'm going to show you how I wax a piece. Now, people that follow me and that tune in regularly are probably thinking, not her again with a wax. But every time I do it, I get loads of questions asked. And I'm also aware that there are quite a few new subscribers to the Dixie Belle YouTube channel. And over the last couple of weeks, I've had a few new people popping on to my lives. So I thought it'd be quite a good one to show you. If you are daunted by water-based top coats, if you can't quite get them right, if you struggle with applying them for whatever reason, they're not my favourite thing in the world to apply. I'm not going to lie. I love wax because it's easier and I can seem to get it on better. Some people do not like wax because they don't get on with it, and that's fine. Everybody's completely different and everybody's got preferences to the products that they prefer. I love a bit of wax. I love a bit of wax. Also, I do tend to do kind of more decorative kind of pieces of furniture, as opposed to something that's going to be used as a dining table or something, you know, something that's going to have a lot of heavy use. Mine tend to be kind of decorative. The best down wax give the projects a beautiful finish. I agree. I love a wax finish. You cannot, in my opinion, you can't beat it. I don't like anything that's too shiny, unless it is like a very modern looking piece. Don't like anything too matte. This is beautiful, and it's one of the top coats. So obviously a water-based top coat will sit on top. You apply it with a brush or a roller, and it sits on top of your paint and creates a protective barrier over the top of your paint. Wax is one of those things that kind of sinks into the paintwork, and I think that's why I like it so much, because it just looks really kind of natural and beautiful. It doesn't look kind of like it's anything sitting on the top. Again, water-based top coats absolutely got their time and place in the furniture painting world. Don't get me wrong, I am not knocking them whatsoever. But for me, as for aesthetics, wax will always be my personal favourite. So this is Best Dang Wax. It's different to most waxes because it's actually not, it doesn't smell. I always think it actually smells like cream, like body lotion. It hasn't got like any horrible, strong, solventy smells, and that's because it's a water-based wax, so it's eco-friendly. It's also really easy to clean this up. So a lot of waxes, if you do use an oil-based wax with a brush, you obviously have to wash that brush in white spirits, otherwise it kind of gets a bit stiff and the bristles kind of go a bit kind of gunky. Whereas this is water-based, so not only is it eco-friendly, easy to wash up, no smells. I'm a little bit sensitive to things that stink, heavily scented kind of things, and also solvent-y kind of things. I'm a bit funny about. So I love this for this reason. So this is actually the clear. It looks white, doesn't it? But it's, promise me, I have picked up the white by mistake a few times, but this is definitely the clear. Obviously I've got a big old tub because I use it all the time, but you can get, if you you know, just wanted to do a couple of projects, or you wanted a smaller tub just to do one project. I don't know where the 4 ounces are. Hang on, just to show you the difference. I can see one over there. So that is a 4 ounce. Whoa, that is a 10 ounce, just for comparison. These last ages. I tend to get the coloured waxes in these because I just use those for kind of decorative shading. Whereas the clear, I always buy in the big tubs because I use it all the time. So that's the size difference. You can see big difference there. This one's actually black one. So it comes in a few colours. The clear looks like this. The white also looks like this, but this is definitely clear. So it looks like kind of a bit hazy when you put it on, but it goes clear. And then there's also black, white, grey and brown. And you can use those to create kind of different effects, to create aging, to create a little bit of shadow, a little bit of depth to your piece. You could create lots of different... I've got lots and lots of videos on my own channel about how I've used wax over certain colours to create different effects. So if you want to go and have a ganders over there. But just today, I'm going to apply this clear wax. So this is collard greens. This is a chalk mineral paint colour. It's quite possibly one of my all-time favourite shades. It's gorgeous. It's a very, very on-trend, kind of muted, beautiful green. All greens are beautiful, okay? All greens are beautiful. My favourite colour is green. Green nail varnish, green paint. I paint in green, I would say 80% of the time, possibly slightly more, but green is my favourite. So this is possibly one of my all-time favourite. If I only ever had to paint in one shade of green for the rest of my life, I think it might be collard greens, because it works so well with contemporary furniture, old furniture. It goes across the board, all different styles, mid-century, rustic, farmhouse, you name it. Collard greens does it. Can you tell I like it? And I actually apply the wax with a sponge. Now, there are definitely no right and wrong way to apply wax, and this is why I like it so much. What works for me might not work for you. There's a few different ways you can apply it. I'm showing you the way that I like to apply it, especially if I've got big flat surfaces like this. Did I put my phone on Do Not Disturb? Bear with. Focus. Do Not Disturb. I'm getting Facebook Market messages. Get your words out. Easy for me to say. Something just pinged up from Facebook Marketplace. What am I trying to say? You know what I mean. Anyway, I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb, which is always a risk. It's going to ring, isn't it? I do my lives, and it's going to ring when I'm live for this little half an hour for the day. It doesn't ring before, it doesn't ring after, rings when I'm live. Anyway, these are the other things that you can use to apply wax. And if you don't apply wax with these things, you can apply wax with pretty much anything, as long as you get it on the surface. So these are the most common things that I apply wax with. So this is a blue applicator sponge. These are all Dixie Belle products, by the way. So this is a blue applicator sponge. This is the cheapest. You can also cut it up, cut it in half, cut it in quarters to get more out of it. It's a very kind of fine sponge, and it's not too spongy, if that makes sense. It's quite stiff. It keeps its shape. So you can use these for quite a few different things. Top coating. I like to apply wax with this, and I'll show you how. There's also this brush which lends itself really well to applying wax, and this is the La Petite brush. So it's got a short handle, slightly tapered end. You can see here it's slightly tapered. This one's actually worn away because I've used it quite a bit. And this one. So this is the best dang brush. This has got a larger surface area and it's flat, but it is a big old brush. So if you'll notice, these two have both got the same kinds of bristles, and that's a natural bristle. So that's traditionally what you'd use to apply wax. Probably you wouldn't use a synthetic brush because they don't hold the product and distribute it on the surface very well. A natural bristle brush is what you would ordinarily use to apply wax. Not say if you use a synthetic brush to apply wax and it works for you, then fine, but I would avoid it just because they just wouldn't lend themselves very well to picking up the product and putting it on the surface. It'd make it hard work, I believe. So these are the three things that I most commonly use to get the wax on. And then if I'm creating some shading or want some coloured wax in a very specific area, then I'll use slightly different brushes. But they're the ones that I'll use for clear wax. And it really depends on what it is I'm waxing as to what I'll use in terms of these kind of three things to put it on. So if I've got a lot of flat surfaces like this, my go-to will always be the sponge because it's quickest. It also gives you a really even finish. These two are really good for kind of detail. So the piece underneath has got a lot of carved detail, the piece that this bookcase is sitting on at the moment. And if I was to use a sponge, it would kind of just gloop in the carved areas and kind of, it just wouldn't work. So I would use probably that brush because it's got that kind of tapered end and you can get in all the kind of nooks and crannies and get your wax in all the carved details. And again, this one would also work really well for kind of carved details or for something that's, you know, maybe not a flat surface, like a curved surface, or if you've got, like I say, detail on it or anything. So these are the three things that I use. I'm going to put the brushes away. So I'm not going to use those at the moment. And I'm going to show you on the side of this. Can you see? Yeah. Okay, so we've got the side of this. This has been dried overnight. Generally speaking, when I use wax or a top coat, I'll let my piece dry overnight. That's just going to make sure that you've got it's dried properly. If you start applying a top coat or a wax and your piece hasn't dried properly, obviously you're at risk of kind of lifting the product, or sometimes you can trap moisture under as well. If the piece is still drying out and you apply your top coat or your wax too soon and the moisture is trying to get out, sometimes it can create like a kind of hazy effect in the top coat. So I always try and leave it overnight. As you can see, that's the amount of product that I've got on the sponge. Not a huge amount at all. I've just kind of swirled it in the tub. And I'm going to start at the very top. And I'm just going to basically just wipe it on. Just going to make sure I've got in the detail here. Don't worry if you can see any white residue, because that disappears. It's not a problem. And you can see how easy that kind of tucks under the ledge. It's so easy to apply wax with a sponge, honestly. It's so easy. And the good thing about it is, these are obviously washable, so you can just throw them in your washer, and the wax is water-based, so you can reuse these loads of times. They're not kind of just a one-use kind of thing. You can't really over-apply wax either. The good thing about wax is, once you've applied it on the surface and you've rubbed it in a little bit and left it, you're going to come back and buff the excess off. And there will be excess. That's normal. It's not sort of unusual. It's unusual if there wasn't excess. So there will be excess. You will need to buff it off. And that stops your piece from having that kind of tacky finish, and it gives you that really nice, even, consistent sheen. So I like to just kind of go in swirl marks, but you can do this. You can go that way or that way. You do need to put a little bit of elbow grease into it, and the wax kind of just melts in. A little bit more product on the sponge just to do the very last bit at the bottom. And if you've got cooler temperatures where you are, currently. I know we're heading into winter here. If you're waxing something and your wax has been sat in a cold garage or a shed or a workshop, sometimes it's easier to apply your wax when it's got a little bit of warmth to it. So what I like to do is either sit that on top of a heater for half an hour, or just blast it with a hairdryer, and that kind of softens the wax up, because it will apply easier when it's softer, as opposed to if it's gone a little bit hard in the cold. Just going to do the very bottom. And then just the last thing I do before I let it sit is just sort of do that, and that just makes sure that there's no thick globs of wax sitting anywhere, and you've got a nice kind of even finish. So can you see how that's kind of melted in? Obviously you can see the reflection. That's why I wanted to do it in front of this window here, so you can kind of see. To touch, it's still tacky. You can see where it's slightly thicker. Obviously there's still product sat on the surface here. And then you're going to leave it 20 minutes, half an hour is all it takes. Teresa, I'm using, this is Collard Greens from the Chalk Mineral Paint range, and I'm using Best Dang Wax in clear to top coat. So that's the one side done. So quick. So quick. And the same for in here. It's going to be really, really quick to do. I'm just going to apply a little bit around here. I think this is the longest I've gone without talking. So you've seen how quick that was. This is definitely the quickest way of top coating for me. Good to see you've been doing it right. Gold star for you. Gold star for you. And then we'll pretend 20 minutes to half an hour has passed. I'm not going to wax the whole thing because that would be boring, wouldn't it? And then what you want is a nice soft cloth, which, surprise, surprise, is over there. So let me grab that. As long as it's lint free, you can pretty much use any cloth to remove the excess and give a sheen. So oh, that's good about the sponge. It's a game changer for wax. I'm telling you, the sponge is a game changer for wax. So to remove the excess, we'll go back round to this side where we did it first. Now, let's just pretend it's been 20 minutes to half an hour. And the wax has sat there and it's soaked in as much as it's going to. And now we just need to remove the excess. So like I say, you can use a microfiber cloth. You can use a lint-free rag. Dixie Belle sell bags of lint-free rags now, which you can get from your local Dixie Belle retailer or online. So you can use those. An old pillowcase. As long as it's lint-free. And basically lint-free means it's not going to shed on your furniture. It's not going to leave little bits of fluff on your furniture. Because that's annoying. So all you're going to do is make a nice kind of soft kind of pad and lightly just swirl over the top. You don't need to press on too hard. And what you're aiming for is to get your piece to feel nice and smooth without feeling any resistance on the rag. If you can still feel resistance, it means you've still got too much product on the surface. If your rag runs nice and smoothly over the surface, it means you've probably removed enough. Yeah, there's no stickiness to that now at all. So when you first apply the wax without removing the excess, it kind of feels a little bit almost tacky. When you've removed the excess and buffed it, you can see it's now got a nice sheen to it, that really kind of low luster sheen, and it feels perfectly smooth. There's no kind of stickiness or tackiness to it at all. But like all products, it does have a cure time, so it is important to let the wax cure, and that takes the same time as most water-based products, which is 28 to 30 days. So this ideally doesn't want to have anything set on the top. If you do need to set something on the top, if you do need to use it sooner, put a coaster down or something that's not going to stick. And that goes the same for most water-based products. If you use it sooner than the 30-day cure time, you just have to use it very lightly. And just make, if you are painting to sell, just make your customers aware. Usually I don't sell my pieces straight away, so that's absolutely fine, because they're going to sit in a nice insulated storage facility and cure all on their own without me having to interfere with them. But it is worth knowing that sometimes people go, oh, I waxed it yesterday and it still feels a bit sticky and I'm getting fingerprints on it. It's just because it hasn't been left to dry long enough and start to cure. So wax, obviously, in the pot is a soft product. It's soft, and this is like butter, best down wax. It is really buttery soft. So it needs chance to dry and cure and go hard, and that is what is going to protect your furniture. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't remove enough of the excess. They don't buff it properly. The buffing is obviously going to remove the excess and just give you enough to kind of protect your furniture. And they don't wait long enough. Loads of people paint and then go, I did the scratch test the day after I painted and it came off. But it's because it needs chance to cure. Paint needs chance to cure. Wax needs chance to cure. All the things need chance to cure. Talking of chance to cure, this is a prime example, and this is completely not related to wax at all. So you might have noticed this, and it drives me nuts because I really need to paint this again. When silk first came out, They were like, try it on loads of different surfaces to see what happens, to see like the durability of it. So I put Baja Grey on this UVPC door frame thing. It's not real wood, it's plastic. And after a few days, guess what happened? It scratched with my nail right off. And then I left it. And then a week later, it still scratched, but it was a bit harder. And then a few weeks later, a bit harder still. That will not come off. That won't move. She won't move with a scraper. It won't move with my nail. It won't come off. So you need to let things cure. That is silk, straight over an unprepped plastic door frame. And that is as tough. It won't come off. That's why it's still there. I actually want to paint these door frames black. So that's why it's still there. But I do need to take the grey off. So I hope that has helped with wax a little bit. If you struggle with top coats, give wax a go. Why not? Why not? As long as you're not going to use it as, you know, a dining table or on your floor or something that's going to get a lot of heavy use. It's absolutely fine on occasional pieces of furniture like this, decorative items, perfectly fine. And that's me. That's me. 31 minutes talking about wax. I could talk about wax all day long, but I'm not going to, because that would be boring for you. Also, my children need picking up from school, so I don't think they'd really appreciate me staying. Oh, let me show you from last week. I haven't got round to staging these yet, but this is the vase from last week. It turned out okay, didn't it? I layered up some more. If you didn't watch last week, this is obviously going to be completely irrelevant to you, so you're going to have to go back and watch the lives from last week. But this is a vase that I was giving the kind of faux copper patina kind of look to. So I need to stage these. I've got 2 to stage, so I'm pretty impressed with how that turned out. I really like that look. I think it looks cool. So that's it. As always, thank you very much for tuning into the video. Thanks for watching. Sorry if you've heard me talk about wax so many times. It has literally bored you to tears. But I love wax. What can I say? I'll be back next week. I won't be talking about wax, don't worry. I'll be talking about something completely different. So if you can, tune in next week, and I will see you then. Have a lovely day. Bye.